Welcome to Align Christ-Centered Yoga. My name is Linda, and I'll be guiding our practice today. My question for you today is, how lightly do you hold on to your plans? Our scripture verse today comes from the words of Solomon in Proverbs. And he says this, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." And today I'm just going to read to us from the devotion book, Jesus Calling. And this is written as if from God to you. So not scripture, but as if. I am your Lord. Seek me as friend and lover of your soul. But remember that I am also King of Kings, sovereign over all. You can make some plans as you gaze into the day that stretches out before you. But you need to hold those plans tentatively, anticipating that I may have other ideas. The most important thing to determine is what to do right now. Instead of scanning the horizon of your life, looking for things that need to be done, concentrate on the task before you and the one who never leaves your side. Let everything else fade into the background, and this will unclutter your mind, allowing me to occupy more and more of your consciousness. Trust me to show you what to do when you have finished what you are doing now. I will guide you step by step as you bend your will to mine. Thus you stay close to me on the path of peace. Today's practice is a hip opening practice, a practice of surrender. I invite you to maybe pause the video and get a blanket or a towel if you would like that to support you in pigeon. We are working towards pigeon pose. And as you practice today, can you let go of the plans, surrender, quiet your mind and body so that you can hear the Lord well? Come to a seated position, elevating your hips up on that blanket or a prop, finding the sitting bones, and today crossing those legs in front of you. And as you cross the legs in front of you, just kind of notice, where your knees really high up because you're very tight. Maybe your knees come all the way down to the mat. Maybe you're a little lopsided. Just kind of noticing how the hips feel as you anchor into those sitting bones. Go ahead and take your hands to your leg and begin to move the muscles of the thigh around towards the outside and the knee. And just massage those muscles out. Begin to move the muscles of the calf forward and away from the leg. Just notice how that leg is situated, and then on the other side, same thing. You're just going to go ahead and move the muscles out and away. Take the thumb to the hip crease, bring the calf muscle away from the thigh. Check in here. Maybe there is a slight difference, maybe not, just accepting it as it is. And one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, begin to find your breath. So as we focus on our breath, we are fully present. You cannot be fully focused on the breath and thinking about what happened yesterday or 5 minutes ago, thinking about the plans for after your practice. So in this practice of presence, can you feel the breath moving? Inhale a little more deeply down the body. Exhale up. Let the hands come down to your thighs and just continue here. And feel the effect of the breath on the body. Maybe softening. Shoulders getting a little heavy. Head rising towards the sky. Jaw parallel to the floor. Can you soften the muscles of your face? As you soften, can you let go of the plans that you have today? Offering them up to the Lord. Take one more breath here. On that next inhale, connecting breath and movement, take a deep breath in, arms rise. And then exhaling, gently twist to the right. And inhale, arms rise up. And exhale, twist to the left. So back and forth here a few times, noticing any sensations in the lower back. Noticing how that may be affecting sensation in the hip. And let the gaze come up as the arms rise. And again. And this time, go ahead and stay in that twist as that arm comes across to the right and create a little more traction as the hand presses into the leg. Rise up, creating a little more space in the spine. And draw the gaze over that back shoulder. Taking a deep breath in, arms rise. And again, coming across, taking a deep breath, finding your twist as you exhale. Just notice any sensations in the twist on this side. As you're ready, release and unwind. Go ahead and move any blocks that you have to the front. Bring the hips down to the mat. And go ahead and bring the feet together in butterfly. So find your sitting bones again. Hold on to the feet. And you can see as my hips came down to the mat, how much higher my knees are. I'm pretty tight through the inner thigh and the groin. But just lift and lower those legs a few times. And let the legs settle. And again, can you find a little more length in the spine? And if you want more stretch, maybe the elbows come down towards the legs and just encourage them to go a little bit lower. Yeah. Maybe you lean a little bit forward from that hip, from the hip crease. So you're just hinging forward. Stay here for another 2 breaths, just letting those legs drift into that gravitational pull. Gently rise up, leave the left leg in front, take that right leg back in a pinwheel. Set that backwards, here we'll go. And hand to that right hip, begin to lift and lower the hip. Again, just kind of noticing sensations in the lower back, what's happening across the psoas in the front of the hip. And one more breath here. Take your left hand underneath the knee, your right hand underneath your ankle. Can you tilt forward and back here? And how does that feel? Just kind of giving yourself a massage on the glutes. Moving the body maybe in a non-habitual, atypical way. One more rock. And then let the body come down over that front leg. Arc it up, lift the knee and bring it into the chest. 2 more times here. Beginning to notice how the back is responding to movement today. And then bring the body over the knee and find your half pigeon. So maybe you are supported on fists or a block, support your head. Or maybe you're a little more flexible and the head can come down to the hands. Notice the sensation as you flex your feet, as you draw the belly in, as you invite the body to get heavy. Take 2 more breaths here. Gently press into the hands and rise up. Bring your legs forward, straighten them out. Sit up in staff pose, finding your sitting bones. Draw those arms all the way up, shoulders to ears. And then let the shoulders draw down wide and low. Let the hands come to the mat. Bounce your knees. Windshield wiper your feet. And switch the pinwheel. So now the left leg is behind, the right leg is in front. Hand to left hip, lift and lower. So 2 more times here. And then as you're ready, go ahead and take that back hand under the ankle, front hand underneath the front leg. And again, you're going to rock as you lift that ankle, lift that knee. So make it work for you. Find your range of motion. Can you connect it to breath? And 1 more rock. And then as the leg comes down in the front, draw the body down, head and shoulders and back, and rise up and lift that knee to the chest, and twice more. And on this side, again, using any props that you need to support your head, flexing your feet, finding that core support as the navel draws into the spine. And then on that exhale, inviting that heaviness. Stay here for 2 more breaths. Gently press into your hands and rise up. Crossing your ankles in front, meet me in table. So come forward, hands and wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, smack through the tops of the feet, and pressing into the tops of the feet, begin to find cat and cow. And 2 more times here, cat to cow. Exhaling as you arch that back up. Inhaling as you release. Coming back to center and a neutral back. Begin to draw right shoulder to hip and left shoulder to hip. Just letting that gaze softly fall over the shoulder towards your feet. 2 more times here. Each direction. Then as you're ready, come back to center. Bend that left leg back. Go ahead and come over the top of the foot. Press into the ball of the foot as the heel presses back. Exploring any sensations in the legs, in the calf muscle. And then as you're ready, flex that foot, float that leg up to the, I was going to say to the sky, but just parallel to the floor. Bring it across the ankle, come to the outside of the foot, and find your hip stretch here. So adjust the hip, forward, back, up and down. Find the stretch that's right for you. Can you find a little more support in the core? You're really engaging across the lower hips in the transversus abdominal, engaging across the middle as the navel draws in, Softening the rib cage, bringing the ribs together and down towards the belly. And as you're ready, release. Meet me in table. Come back to child's pose, and if those wrists are a little tight, maybe turning fingers underneath as the forehead comes to the mat. Rise back up one more time. Child to table. And this time in table, establish that neutral position of the spine and the neck. Engage that right leg, press it back, and again, just rolling over the foot, pressing that heel behind you, finding the stretch in the calf muscles, noticing anything going on in the foot and ankle. Maybe twice more. And then as you're ready, flex that foot, float that leg up to parallel, bring it across the other foot, come to the outside of the foot, and draw shoulder towards hip, gaze coming over that shoulder and towards the foot. Now adjusting that right hip to find the stretch. So a couple more breaths here. What's your quality of breath? As you're ready, meet me back at center. Big toes together, take those knees wide, hands one handprint forward. Begin to drop the rib cage towards the mat. So we're just going to stay here, hips above the knees. So I'm not bringing my hips back to my heels yet. Begin to let the head come down, rib cage drops towards the mat. But can you continue to engage the muscles of the back? So while the rib cage is dropping, it's not flopping. You're going to draw the shoulders a little bit back towards the hips. Bring those shoulder blades a little bit wide. Draw the belly in. Take 2 more breaths here. Gently press into the hands. Bring those hands underneath the shoulders. Begin to draw the hips back to the heels. Forehead to the mat. Stay here in this modified child's pose. Wide legs, just noticing inner thigh, groin, what's going on in those muscles. Where can you soften the body with breath? Pressing into your hands, come up, wrists underneath the shoulders. Bring the knees one at a time underneath the hips and curling the toes underneath. Go ahead and come into that first downward facing dog. And those knees are touching, the thighs are touching the rib cage, knees are deeply bent. And then begin to pedal through your feet. Again, just kind of opening up side to side. Taking a deep breath in, heels rise, exhaling, heels come down towards the mat. Take 2 more breaths here. How does downward facing dog feel? What do you notice? Drawing the gaze forward, draw the belly in and bring your right foot softly through your hands. Begin to let that back knee tap down and rise. A couple of times here. And as you're ready, let that knee drop to the mat. Sink into it. Let the top of the foot come down and begin to find this stretch in the psoas in the front of the hip. Taking a deep breath in, rise up, low lunge. Take the hands to the small of the back and gently just pressing in at the sacrum bone, providing a little support. Find your back bend. How does that feel today? Deep breath in, arms rise. Exhaling, hands to either side of the foot. Go ahead and curl the toes under in the back. Raise that back leg, press into that left hand. Sweep the right arm up. Find a gentle twist. And find your breath here. Where is the gaze? Is it up or is it down? One more breath. And exhale, hand down to either side of the foot. Go ahead and bring the front foot to the back. Find a strong plank. And drop down to the knees and come all the way down to the mat. And find your Sphinx pose. So forearms heavy on the mat. Take a deep breath in and rise. Exhale and lower. So the upper body floating in and out of this low cobra. Or this Sphinx pose. So as you're ready, pressing down with the forearms, rise into that Sphinx. So Sphinx is just a little bit more supported than low cobra. With low cobra, those hands are closer to the rib cage, elbows rising to the sky. Here in Sphinx, we're just kind of pressing down with the forearms, pressing down with the tops of our feet, opening up across the chest. Can you feel the work in the lower and middle back? Exhale, hands to rib cage. Come through table and meet me in downward facing dog. So notice, take a few breaths here and what's going on in downward facing dog. Notice right side compared to left, hands and arms, back and legs, feet. Drawing the gaze forward, bring the left leg, left leg in between your hands. Back knee drops and taps, down and up. A few times here. And just checking in, noticing sensations in the hip, in the knees, adjusting for your body. Let that back knee come down. So settle here, drop a little bit into that right hip as you feel that stretch, and you're kind of lifting up with that hip point. So there's a sense of kind of a curve up, a little bit of a wave as the hip comes forward and draws up. And then rise into that low lunge. And let the hands come back. And again, just pressing into the sacrum bone. Finding that support, press down through the feet and rise up and out of the hips with the body. And one more breath here. And deep breath in as the arms rise. Exhaling, hands come to the inside of the foot. Press into that right hand as that left arm reaches high. Maybe raise that back leg up. Take one more breath here. And exhaling, hands on either side of the foot. Bring the front foot to the back. Again, meeting me in plank. Coming down to the mat, however you choose to do that. This time exploring low cobra. So the hands a little bit lower, fingertips tented so that you're not pushing through the hands. Elbows drawing back towards each other and down. Inhale into that back bend. Exhale down. A few more times here. Can you do the lifting from the muscles of the back rather than the arms? On that next inhale, rise into your low cobra. Stay there and check in. Again, feeling the work in the muscles of the back, feeling the opening across the chest. Pressing the hands to the mat, come up through table, curling the toes under, meet me in downward facing dog. And again, just staying here for a few breaths. Notice how it feels. Can you use the breath to find release? On the next inhale, right leg rises high. Gaze comes forward. Foot is going to come to the outside of that right hand. Back knee drops, finding lizard pose. Top of the foot in the back comes down to the mat. So start both wrists directly underneath the shoulders. Find the stretch here. Maybe this is enough for you. Finding stretch in the psoas of the left side as that hip extends. Finding stretch in the inner thigh and groin on the right. Go ahead and take that right hand to the inside of the thigh. Begin to draw the shoulders back in your twist as you create that traction. Leg pressing in, hand pressing out. Maybe that arm. Maybe that leg comes out a little further, maybe not, rolling to the outside of the foot. Next choice, if you'd like a quadricep stretch, that back foot rises. Hand comes to the outside, inside or outside of the foot, yogi's choice. Press foot into hand, hand into foot. Again, creating the traction so that you have control in these closed chain stretches. Drawing the belly in. And as you're ready, that leg comes down. Cartwheel the hand back to center. Toe heel that front leg back to center. Raise the back leg, bring the back leg to the front, knees deeply bent. Dropping the head, find your first forward fold. Hands holding onto the elbows. How does the spine feel today? The muscles on either side of that back. Maybe lift and lower the hips a few times. Take one more breath here. Let the hands come down to the mat. And then sink the hips and rise up into chair pose. Gently drop the hips a little bit. Feel the work in the front of the shins and the quadriceps. And rise up to mountain, hands to heart, taking a deep breath in. Hands to the back. Again, just kind of connecting in at that sacrum bone. Find your back bend. So can you anchor through the feet? Keep the hips over the ankles. And then as you're ready, let the arms rise up. Exhale, forward fold. Hands to shins, come up halfway. Exhaling, bring the feet to plank. However you choose to, come down to the mat. Find a back bend. Maybe now you are in upward facing dog. So if you are, hold it. Wherever you are in your back bend, hold it. In upward facing dog, feet and hands are touching the mat. Extending through the arms. Draw the shoulders wide and back. Curling the toes under, meet me in downward facing dog. And check in. What's going on right side and left side? How is this maybe a little different than where you started today? Left leg rises high. Gaze forward, foot comes to the outside of the hands. Wrist directly underneath the shoulders, drop that back knee. So find your breath here. Find your stretch here. Top of the foot to the mat in the back. Center that right hand. Bring that left hand to thigh. So again, thigh pressing in, hand pressing out. Find the twist, stacking shoulders. Maybe the arm rises. Maybe the knee comes to the outside, rolling to the outside edge of that foot. Next possibility, finding the quadricep stretch as the leg draws up. And final choice, maybe the hand comes to that foot. So take a couple of breaths wherever you are in this pose and breathe into those tight places. And as you're ready, cartwheel the hands down and gently toe heel that foot back in. Hands to either side of the foot. Raise that back knee. Float the hips up, that back foot coming to meet the front. Forward fold. This time in forward fold, just let the hands come back to the heels and around. Back and forth here. And again, just kind of settle at center. Notice the length in the spine. Notice the release in the neck. Maybe shake out the head a little bit. No and yes. Hands to shins, come up halfway. And exhaling, come down and pressing through the feet. Rise all the way up, mountain pose. And this time, interlace the fingers behind you and find your back bend from here. So again, just pressing through the feet equally. My feet are hip width apart so that they're directly in alignment with the hips. Maybe one more breath here. And then deep breath in, arms rise. Exhale, forward fold. Draw the belly in, support the back. Nice flat back until you're parallel with the floor, then fold over. Again, shake the head out, no and yes. Hands to shins, come up halfway. Exhale down, one leg back and then the other. Meet me in plank. From plank, find your way down to the mat and into your back bend. Curling the toes under, meet me in downward facing dog. And check in here. How does it feel? Just for you. Can you find your breath? One more breath here. On the next inhale, right leg rises high. So we're going to go into flying pigeon. So you're going to bring your nose to your knee and your knee to your nose. Inhale as the leg comes up. Now bring that knee across to the inside of the opposite elbow. Inhale up. Outside of the same elbow. Inhale up. Gaze comes forward. Bring the knee forward. Kickstand that foot out to the side. Come down to the back knee. And then begin to put weight on that front leg. Coming up to the fingertips, begin to walk the back leg behind you. And this front shin, completely dependent on your anatomy, flexibility, and strength, will either be parallel to that front edge of the mat or in more towards the hip. And that might be a bone and joint issue for you. That might be what is deciding it. It might be a flexibility or a strength issue for you. So find what is right for you. Go ahead and look over one shoulder. If the foot is turned and sickled, go ahead and straighten out that foot. Look over the other shoulder. Try to keep the hip bones even towards the front. Sometimes there's a tendency to lift this back hip up. And begin to walk your hands forward. And find your pigeon. So again, support the head. For some of us, that means using blocks and props. For some of us, we're a little bit more flexible. Maybe we've been doing this long. We were just born more flexible. Come down to the hands. Can you flex that front foot and draw that left hip down? Notice where you might be holding tension outside of the hip area. So maybe you can relax across the upper back, or the neck, or the foot. Stay here for 2 more breaths. As you're ready, press into your hands and rise up. So you're going to lean into this front leg a little bit. Bring this back leg all the way around into a twist. Take your left hand to your hip crease. Gently draw the sitting bones back towards the mat. Right arm is going to come across mid-shin. Find your twist here, bringing that left arm behind you. And stay here for 2 breaths. Draw the body forward and stack your legs one on top of the other. So I have my ankles just a little bit behind the knees, and my legs are sort of parallel to each other, one on top of the other, hips facing forward. So maybe for a little extra release, you bring those hands in between the fingers, in between the toes. Sometimes it's easier than others. And maybe you play a little bit with the fingers, drawing them a little wider and a little narrower. Maybe you move the toes back and forth a little bit. A little extra footwork here. If you want more of a stretch, you can lean forward from the hips. Again, always finding that edge, tension, but never moving into struggle. Gently bring the fingers out from the toes. Go ahead and bend this top leg. And you've got an option here. I'm just going to extend it into a hamstring stretch. So maybe for you, your hands stay behind your thigh. Maybe your hands hold onto your feet. Maybe your wrists even cross. And that leg rises up. So can you stay on the sitting bones and relax the shoulders and find the stretch? And find your breath. And one more breath here. And gently just bend that knee. Bring both legs forward. And bounce the legs a little bit. Windshield wiper the feet. Cross the ankles, come forward into table. And meet me in downward facing dog. And take a couple breaths and check in here. What's going on in downward facing dog? And on that next inhale, the left leg rises high. So same sequence here. So first, nose to knee, flying pigeon. And the leg extends. And can you use the abdominals to guide this? So rather than leading from the foot, can you lead from the abs? Next, nose comes to the inside of the opposite knee and up. Outside of the same arm, not knee, and up. Again, nose to knee. Kickstand that foot out, drop to the back knee first, then let that front leg come to the floor. Decide, how is that front leg positioned? Might be very different on this side than on the other side, maybe coming up to fingertips. And straighten out that back leg. Extend through the spine as you look over your shoulders. And keeping that body as long as you can. Find your pigeon. And go slow and ease into it because maybe it's very different on this side. And can you keep this left or this right hip drop towards the mat? And can the body settle into the stretch? So as you stay here, imagine this front hip crease drawing back a little bit. Keep the feet flexed, or the foot flexed. Let go of the tension in the upper back and the neck. Adjust the pose if you need to. And take 2 more breaths here. As you're ready, press into your hands and rise up. Lean a little bit into this front hip. Bring that back leg all the way around. Find your twist. Right hand comes into that hip crease. Draw the hip crease down as you lengthen through the spine. Let that hand come back. And find your stretch. And as you're ready, come to center. And go ahead and bring the legs stacked. Here's your fire logs again, right? Flexing the feet to protect the knees. And again, making the pose your own, finding your sitting bones. Maybe bringing the fingers in between the toes. And maybe playing a little bit, fingers getting a little wider, a little narrower. And gently just bring those fingers out from the toes. Bring this leg in front of you, maybe holding on behind the thigh or around the foot. If your arms are crossed, maybe you can cross with the other arm in front. I don't even remember which way I did it before, but if you can remember. And again, when I do this, I often find that my shoulders are coming up to my ears. Can you find the sitting bones and sit up straight and let those shoulders drop? And find your breath. And 2 more breaths here. As you're ready, gently bend that leg. Bring the legs in front of you. Again, just straightening them out, bouncing the knees, windshield wiper the hips. And then feet flat on the mat, go ahead and draw the body down to the mat, lying on your back. So bring the hands up to the ceiling, reach the fingers all the way up to the sky, and let the shoulders thump down. Do that twice more. And then keep the shoulders in place, bring the hands to the knees, and just gently draw the knees into the rib cage and away. And then keeping the big toes together, circle the knees away from each other and in. And do that a few times. And switch the direction. And as you're ready, bring the feet to the mat and extend the legs long. And find breath. And as you settle into Shavasana, this entire practice leading up to this moment, a quiet mind, a quiet body, open to whatever it is that the Lord has for you. Consider staying here a little longer if you can. But if you need to move on with your day, gently bring movement back, wiggling fingers and toes, turning your head side to side. Bringing arms up and overhead, stretch fingers to one side of the room, toes to the other. And as you're ready, go ahead and bend your knees and roll over onto your side. And stay here for a breath. Gently pressing into your hands, rise up to a sitting position. Finding your sitting bones, crossing your legs comfortably in front of you, noticing body, mind, and soul, what has shifted and changed in your practice today. Maybe noticing as well what has stayed the same. On that next inhale, arms rise, palms together, and exhaling, bring hands to heart. joining me in prayer. Holy God, only you are all-knowing, and only you are everywhere at all times. Help us to hold on to our plans lightly, that at any given moment we can move and flow into what it is that you would have for us. As we leave our mats today, God, guide our words, guide our actions, guide our plans, that we may be your light in a hurting world. It is in the name of Jesus the Christ that we pray. Amen. Thank you for practicing with me today.